The ancient watchtower of Brillion stands as the latest site of victory for the Free Peoples. Now, with it being left behind in the swirling mists of the hills, the company makes for the Blue Mountains to report the news of the Vale of Gold. If luck is with them, the trials of the Dark Powers have subsided for now.
When last we left off, our company had just stopped for the night at an old ruined watchtower just on the skirts of the hills of Evendom called Brûlnin. And over the course of their watch, or rest I should say, the hunt commenced as the eyes of the enemy fell upon them. A heavily veiled battalion of enemy orcs descended upon them, luckily enough scouted out by Aranel, the lookout, and not taking the company by surprise. A fierce battle was fought by both the company and the dwarves, and most coming out unscathed. However, a couple of our company and a couple of dwarves did come out injured, but remain with us today. And so, you all stand once again on the field of battle, surrounded by the corpses of your enemy. Jari actually comes up to you, all of you, and says, "Aye, what a valiant fight that was. Haven't felt such vigor in quite some time."
I'm just glad you are all well enough to fight.
Yes.
Handled yourselves well, even with the manish weapons.
Aye, the balance is all off. I'm used to him being more forward-weighted, but
Well,
you can get used to him. You see, he kind of takes the sword that he's got and he kind of whips it around a little bit. It's a little light.
well, to be fair, they're quite old weapons, so the fact that they're faring that well is probably some measure of some level of craftsmanship at the very least.
Perhaps you're onto something. Men don't know how to make things like they used to.
That's probably fair.
And so, you do have a majority of the night ahead of you. If you'd like, you are more than welcome to take a long rest if you need.
Yes.
And get some hope points back.
Yes. I will take 2.
I will also take 2.
I think I'll do the same. Long rest.
Do. Not 12. We don't have that many.
You wish we had that many.
She just reached into the popcorn bowl. One kernel left. What?
There's still the unpopped ones at the bottom. She's looking like,
Tempting.
All right.
Miragar, did you take something?
Yeah, I took 1.
Oh, okay, good.
It's 2 for him.
That's right.
He's just better than us.
Dang hobbits.
And all throughout the night, you guys get all kinds of compliments, accolades for your valor in battle. People actually come up to you, Miragar, and talk to you about the hardiness of hobbits, as told in the tales of old Bilbo Baggins. But the rest of the night goes mostly uneventfully. You wake up the next morning, ready to set out once again. Is there anything you would all like to do before packing up and heading out?
A cursory check of them. I doubt they're going to have anything important, like communication-wise or token-wise, but...
Yeah, I would say we probably search the orcs, but they don't seem like the kind to carry letters.
Exactly, and if the dwarves need anything off of them, like scraps of armor or helmets, even though it would be probably an affront to wear them.
Yeah, you see, they don't really go near them. The closest they come to them is just flipping them over and giving them a double take, stabbing through their chest to make sure that they are, in fact, dead.
That's fair.
But any armors are left on the corpses. They don't take any weapons, no armor, nothing like that. And you can tell that they have perhaps some sort of a disdain for the craftsmanship or the ones who wear it.
Probably both.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Is it time for you all to set out?
I believe it is. Which means Thrush needs to remember he has a map.
All right. So Are you going along with the advice of Thror, who basically said to take the northern shore of the river, find a crossing, and then make your way due west toward the Hall of
That's
Dwarves?
pretty much what Thrush wanted to do, so he is totally on board with following the advice that mimics exactly what he wanted to do. So and hopefully it pans out, because they know these lands, so it's good that they basically propose the exact same thing.
Okay. Get that out of here. It's not north and south, it's east and west that I have issues with.
It's left and right.
Yeah. Both
No,
of those.
because then I get... Sometimes it legit takes me a second to realize, think about which way is right or left.
Oh.
Yeah, sometimes I literally have to do this and be like, oh, left this way.
That
It's
is
the
the
3 o'clock
reason.
and the 9 o'clock.
That is the reason I have such trouble with east and west.
No, my cardinal directions are perfect.
Not
Unless
mine.
I am turned around in a building, I know.
Well, viewers, this is going to be
exactly
one of those tangents that you enjoy. It's not food this time, though. It could be.
All
We'll
right.
see what happens.
Maybe.
So, Thrush, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and give me a travel roll, if you please. Easily enough, you are able to move along the river. You traverse through the forest along this tributary for the river Lhûn for 3 days. 1, 2, 3. And the forest grows much denser as you move away from the hills of Evendim. There's almost like a weight off of your shoulders, as though there was some sort of a fell presence in those hills, perhaps, or maybe the weight of long lost memory of glory past. It's hard to say, but you do feel as though the terrain is getting a little bit easier, but not easy by any stretch of the imagination. And so, on the morning of the third day, you can hear the waters of the river just off to your left here. And you can see that a cold morning mist has begun to obscure the road as you travel forth. You can feel yourself going up inclines and then down and following along these hills, dodging between trees as you go, when suddenly the mist turns into a thick choking fog and all becomes nigh imperceptible to the eye. You wave your hand in front of your face and you can barely see it. The doors behind you grumble to themselves as they seem to trip over each other and not be able to find their footing. However, Aranel, it occurs to you that perhaps it's best if you keep watch, make sure that the terrain doesn't take any sudden turns for the worst. I'm going to need you to give me an awareness roll, if you please. And due to the fog,
I don't.
It wouldn't have-
I don't think it's going to matter if you take a dice away or two.
No. Sorry.
What fog? Elves
Okay.
don't see fog.
But please tell her how many dice does she have to roll?
I was going to say 1,
Oh,
but
well, it would have been
as
5.
as you traverse along, you notice that the fog clears for but a second, and you perceive that you are traversing right along the edge of a sheer ravine. You can hear the waters getting more distant as they travel down, and you stop short just of stepping off of it as you look out, and you shout back to the others. You look back, and you can see one of the dwarves begins to step off of the ravine, and just as you say it, Thor grabs Aiel and keeps him from falling over. And you hear Aiel kind of squeal out, "Oh dear me! I almost fell to me death."
Yes. I don't want to necessarily mean anything as an insult, but do we perhaps want to tie each other off with rope or something in these conditions?
No offense, but I don't think that having 100 or 200 stone weight of dwarves attached to me is going to help me keep my foot on there. If one of us falls, I think all of us are falling.
Well,
Yeah.
there's kind of like it was more for them since they seem to be having trouble, but okay.
Perhaps we can just hold the rope
Yes.
instead of tying ourselves to it.
And also stay back from Cliff's Edge. Move
Yes.
a bit north.
Yes.
Yes, I'd say that's fair.
All right. And you pass a rope along this almost single file line of all of you walking along. The dwarves continue to grumble as they grow weary and are loath to depend on other people for anything. But they grab the rope and pull it taut just in case, or to humor you.
So
And-
help me God, we will turn this right back around to that horde if that's what you want.
And about midday, you crest over the top of a large hill, and the mist begins to roll away as the heat of the October sun begins to set in. And you overlook these green fields down to your south. And the rolling river, in the distance, you feel as though you can see the fork where this tributary and the river Lhûn proper meet. Mr. Guide, I would have you give me yet another travel roll, if you please.
How many days have passed? 3?
3 days.
Okay. My wound.
So you should all be at 4. Or no, just kidding.
Yeah, because we had 1 night of sleep and 3 days of travel.
Oh, okay.
I was looking at fatigue, but
Oh.
if that math worked out,
What's fatigue?
perfect.
Frost.
I'm trying. I don't know what it's doing. I'm just sitting here waiting for it to actually go.
Oh, is it thinking?
I was like,
Like,
I see your eyes starting around. Trying to do things.
There we
Just
go.
No,
Gandalf room.
Hey, Gandalf
had to communicate
room.
with
All
the
right.
dice.
All right.
It's far away.
Yep, Gandalf needed some time, that's all.
Literally,
right.
did it. I waited just to make sure you weren't going to say any dice to take off, and then I was like, okay, I clicked. What is it doing?
All right, and so you travel for yet another day. The forest grows more and more dense as these two waters converge. The forest begins to be almost suffocating as the trees grow in so close together. The moss underneath pads all of your footsteps to where you feel as though you would not be heard by anything around you, but there's so much foliage around you that you feel as though you can't hear anything else either. As you come to the river Lhûn, as you come to the river Lhûn proper, you see Thror kind of pulls ahead. He says, "Oi, there was supposed to be a bridge here. Hold on.
Are there signs it was destroyed or tampered with?
No, perhaps I'm a little bit turned around. Maybe we head back north." And so he leads you on north for yet another day. And I'm gonna need the scout, Miragar. I'm gonna need you to give me an explore roll, if you please.
Okie dokie. Beautiful sunny day. Nothing hindering my roll.
Nope.
Oh, it's such a tease. I mean, I got an extraordinary success, but the teetering on the Gandalf rune
Yep.
is no fair.
All right, and easily enough, through this dense woods, you kind of come across several bluffs that the river has cloven through, almost like a great sword stroke. And you're able to find your way around these bluffs and large boulders and through these thick woods, and finally the remnants of an old wooden bridge, just barely clinging to the foundations into which it was set. You look at it, And it seems as though the wood has begun to rot. And Thor says, "That's not the bridge I remember."
This bridge seems old and seems to be almost rotted through. This might be a spot to cross, but we're going to want to be very careful. It might just be one person crossing and maybe some rope to make sure the bridge doesn't collapse or nobody falls in. I don't know if I would trust this bridge completely.
How far across did you say it was?
That bridge itself is probably, I mean, it's not too terribly far, probably about 30 feet.
Okay, but it's a good drop.
You guess it's probably about, it's about a 10-foot drop into fast-running waters.
Okay.
Are there any nearby trees that we could fell?
Yeah.
They are everywhere.
Okay.
Upon inspecting the bridge, does it look like it's something that maybe with like an extra day of work we could shore it up or do something with?
You could give me a craft roll if you'd like.
We'll see.
Yeah, for you, it's kind of hard to tell. You're not really a bridge builder by any stretch of the imagination. Larry, however, look at it, and it definitely looks like what supports it had that kind of supported it underneath have been either washed away by flooding waters or have just rotted away and fallen into the waters below.
Okay.
But you definitely feel as though it could be shorn up given enough time.
It would take some doing, and it would not be the safest work given the conditions, but we could attempt to at least shore it up a little bit. We're not trying to make a permanent patch job here.
Well, do we... He'll kind of look down the river to the north. Do we... Thror, are we... Where you know this bridge to be, are we still south of it, or have we gone north past where it was in your memory?
I seemed a bit turned around. I'm not 100% sure. I thought it were back south. But that bridge is all but gone. Perhaps washed away.
Well then, I mean, and you guys see Miragar kind of look at his boots? He goes, well, I would have no problem taking a rope across, maybe tying it to a tree on the other side, and that way at least it can assist us and maybe take some of the weight off the bridge.
What roll do I have to make to throw a hobbit 30 feet?
I have amazing acrobat boots that I can use a hope point for a magical success. So
Say we should also tie the rope off to you just in case something bad happens and you go swimming.
yeah.
Perhaps anchor it to a tree on this side as well.
Or a
Nice.
dwarf.
Or a dwarf, yeah.
All right. And so you grab the rope and you're gonna take it over and tie it off.
Yeah, I'll tie the rope around my waist, and then using kind of my light-footedness that these boots give me, sort of boop, 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 kind of delicately get across the this bridge to the other side and then tie it off on a rock or a tree or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Aranel is absolutely gonna try to tie it off to the nearest tree as well.
Okay.
Because if he falls in, at least the tree will help us to make sure he doesn't go too far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead and give me an athletics roll as you trot across this bridge.
Alright, I'm going to use a hope point for a magical success.
Okay.
Because I don't really feel like dealing with rapids. They're the worst things ever.
He's trying to call
Fair
back
enough.
again.
Just out of curiosity, what would you like to have happen with your additional success?
So I think Miragar, he's got the rope tied around his thing. He looks back. He's got the rope over there, and I think it's kind of a moonwalk situation where he just kind of like bounds. He just 1, 2, blah, and like just in like 1 or 2 like little hops gets across to the other side, and
Is
sort
that-
of is like looks at himself, looks back.
You see the
You know,
dwarves
almost-
kind of whisper amongst themselves like, I've never seen one of the halflings do anything like that.
And then gives thumbs up from the other side as he's tying his rope off to a nice.
Not gonna
sturdy
lie,
tree.
I was half expecting you to use your success die just to make it so you could take a drag of your pipe while you were jumping.
No, that's too much flair. I don't think Miragar really knows the extent of what these boots do. You know, they're boots of the stag, so I feel like when he makes that first kind of bounce, all of a sudden it's that stag's leap that he gets 1 or 2 bounds and he's, 30, 40 feet, and he's just kind of like, hey.
I can't wait to write about this one.
Right.
That math doesn't math.
You see, Thor comes over to the rest of you, standing on the other side of the bridge, and he says, "Aye, there's more to this hobbit than meets the eye."
You could say that again.
All right, and you successfully tie the rope to the other side of the bridge, anchoring it to another tree where, everybody can safely get across. You see a few feet fall through a couple of planks across the bridge, but quickly steady themselves as they hang onto the rope.
Okay.
And so, are you all leaving the rope there, or you bringing it with you?
I
Everyone's
say,
safely for us?
we
I would leave it.
untie it from one side and, like, tie it to a rock and let it sink in the river. Like, so that we could grab it again, but, like, nobody else could use it right away. Like, for them to tie the rope off from the other side would be a chore.
Okay,
But for us to just, like, grab the rope again and retie it to our side would be easy.
gotcha.
Not to leave it taut.
Gotcha.
kind of
Yeah,
thing.
you don't
Gotcha.
want more orcs following us.
Exactly.
Although they may not be smart enough to even realize.
And just seeing like a lack rope on the bridge, they might not think of what we've done, you know?
Yeah, alright.
All right, easy enough. And for your travels so far, you all do gain 2 fatigue.
Can we
And I,
just take the travel stuff after you tell us how much fatigue we take?
yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna take 1.
And so that was actually, you don't gain any fatigue from that in particular, but you do travel for another 2 days. You exit the tree line around the River Lhûn, and yet again it becomes a flowing grassland with rolling hills. The grass here is a little gray as the air begins to get a little bit colder, coming towards late October into early November. As you're all walking, you begin to come into the foothills of the Blue Mountains. You're kind of walking along, and Larry, as you walk, I imagine you're kind of using your spear as almost like a walking stick.
Yeah, if the ground's not steady, and he's probably like,
you're
prodding at it.
Yeah, as you walk along, you feel your spear strike something hard.
Okay.
And you look down, and you can see what looks to be the moss-covered remains of perhaps an old road.
Huh. Interesting.
And as you look, you can kind of try to follow it. It's very much overgrown from disuse or misuse. Disuse. Yeah, disuse is the right word. It's overgrown from disuse. But you feel as though, as you're kind of following it along with your eyes, it might cut a straighter path through these foothills than just walking over and under hills. So go ahead.
It looks like it's going in the direction we want to go.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead and give me a hunting roll, if you please.
Sure thing. 80.
All right. Easily enough. You hone in on your senses, and you're able to follow this road, cutting a day off of your travel and leading you just slightly south towards the halls of the dwarves.
I think at this point, I am no longer wounded.
And you all do gain 1 additional fatigue.
Yeah.
Drinking our travel drought gets rid of one, or
It
Makes so
reduces.
you take one less from the next event.
And you said that was 2 days of travel we just did?
That was so you had 2, and then you found the bridge.
Yep.
And then 2 more from your last roll.
wait?
So that was 4 total. And then Larry's roll just now shortened travel by 1 day, so you sped up a little bit.
Okay,
So you got an
great.
extra hex. So, Mr. Guide, I would have you give me yet another travel roll.
Nice.
Yes. Okay. Boop, boop, boop. So you travel across the foothills of the Blue Mountains for a number of days. These hills begin to get taller and taller to the point where you can no longer easily crest the top. Each hill itself is a chore. However, as you're running along this road that Larry had found, you follow it along towards the halls of the dwarves. As you're kind of walking along it, you can see that the road itself splits in 2 directions. Miragar, I would have you give me an explore roll to see if you can find the correct path.
Okay,
Oh,
there we are.
Absolutely.
Very
And
nice.
and Tangwater.
All right. As you move along this road, you come along a steep incline, up, 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 and up even still. And the setting sun is behind you as you look out to the east, and you crest the top of this hill where you find a large statue, pristine condition. And it seems as though this is the statue of a dwarf. And the dwarves behind you, as you trek up this hill, say, "By Aule's beard, it's Durin." And you can see this dwarven statue stands aloft, probably 20 feet tall, fully clad in stone armor, axe along its back, its arms outstretched towards the east, towards the Misty Mountains. This is Durin the Deathless. And you all gain 1 point of hope
Yes.
for seeing a joyful sight.
Awesome.
Rarely have I seen the works of dwarves in person. I've seen many pictures. It's impressive. He's just gonna be looking at it. He's trying not to touch it. He's getting very close, but he's trying very hard not to touch it. Admiring it.
And you see that the dwarves actually almost begin unpacking as if they want to spend the night here. Aye, to spend the night under the stars underneath the watchful eyes of Durin the Deathless. I could think of no finer night's sleep.
I think we can arrange that.
Would be a good place.
All right.
And he's just kind of unconsciously fingering the necklace that he's holding on to. Especially since they mentioned Aule.
Are you, have you made that necklace known to them, by the way?
They may have seen. He's not hiding it, so when they're moving and traipsing around and whatever, it's probably fallen forward on his armor more than once. Because he doesn't have a long beard.
Okay.
And it's usually there in because he needs it in case of emergencies and fighting.
All right. And Aiel the Sage actually comes over to you in regards to the necklace, and he says, how came you by that?
This? I think it was when we fought a troll, correct? It was in the Horde of Nelly?
I believe so.
I found it in a crack in a rock, amongst some other goods and things secreted away.
Aye. Quite the token you've got there. Ancient it is.
There's some power laid upon it.
Aye, perhaps Owly sees favor in you.
I will say Larry does have Azagal's pride, a ring that was said to have been worn by Azagal himself. So, if he's obviously wearing that, he's not hiding it. So, they may have seen that as well. I know that's also Dwarven.
Okay. And after all of this, he looks around at all of you and says, "You all are clad in all sorts of tokens from our people."
Yes, we've found many artifacts on our travels, and some of them have been imbued with power that's allowed us to help many others. But if these things need to be returned to your people, we understand.
With that, Aiel gets close to you, and he says, "Aye, but you've done many good works with that, haven't you?
Yes,
I think
we have to.
it's a secret best kept between you and I.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You know, some of my folk might like to see that return to the dwarves, but so long as it's not sitting in some troll pit or orc hoard or under the belly of a dragon, I'd say it's all right by me."
Well, I appreciate that. Well, perhaps one day, if I retire from all this, these trinkets can be returned to where they belong once I've done my good work.
And aye, if that day comes, it'll be held in high esteem. And with that, you all get a night's rest, and you are within probably less than a day's march of the halls of the dwarves.
One of you people need to take the last point.
I'm keeping it.
I would gladly take it, but I don't know.
I'm keeping it in reserve on the chance that somebody maybe needs it for a valor or wisdom roll.
They might.
You make your way towards the halls of the dwarves. And as you approach, you can see that the great gate of these halls spans high up into the mountainside, where it meets with the mouth of the river Rousier. A great stone bridge that spans the water vanishes into this great gate and into the darkness of the mountain. And as you pass underneath of it, you look up and you can see that the gate itself spans probably 50 feet tall by 40 feet across. This gate is massive. And as your eyes kind of adjust to the light, you can see that these doors themselves are made of massive stone with a cutout that works to cover all but the bridge.
Is there anything we need to do before we approach your kin's land, Jari?
Aye, just know that Vilya is the lady of these halls. Show her due and proper respect, and she'll do kindly by you.
Very good.
Thrush is going to tuck the necklace under his armor.
Yeah, Larry might hide his rings, maybe as a glove or something for now.
Okay. And as you enter in, you come into these large halls. You can see that there are large pillars which stretch presumably all the way up to the ceiling, but it's hard to tell as mere torchlight doesn't seem to span or touch the ceilings or walls. The only way that you can find your way are the sconces which are lit and surrounding the perimeter of each one of these pillars. The halls themselves are rather quiet. You can hear a little bit of movement within, but you would guess that these halls used to be quite a bit more populated. And as you're all walking along, you do see a shape approaching you, holding a torch. Although from this distance, it's tough to make out exactly who it is until they're right upon you. And it is none other than the dwarf which you had met so long ago with a blue hood. He's carrying a torch, his face illuminated as he looks up at you. By Howley's beard! If it isn't you all! And you see Floki. the dwarf who originally gave you the letter.
It's good to see you, Floki, although, admittedly, the circumstances we're coming to you in are rather dire. Is there somewhere we can talk more privately, perhaps?
Aye, but of course. Here. And he looks around, he says, Jari, Thror, Boor, what are y'all doing here? And Thror speaks up, he says, it's best talks about later. Come, we should find a place. It's a little bit more quiet, private. And with that, he kind of gives you all a concerned nod and nods off back in the direction from whence he came. And he brings you into what looks to be probably his home, dug out of the mountainside on one side of the great main hall, which you all were traversing. You look around and you can see most of the structures in here are made of stone. You see a stone bed with what looks to be a feather mattress, very ornate blanket with all kinds of, seems like gilded thread in very harsh angles, making strange patterns around all the furniture and the blankets and such. You can see a single shaft of white light coming down from a corner of the ceiling that illuminates this room. It seems as though perhaps this may be sunlight that has been brought in through a shaft. And he goes in and he sits down next to a stone hearth and says, all right, now tell me what news you've got to tell me.
Well, the Vale was attacked, and your brother did not make it.
With that, he squints his eyes at you, and you can see he grows quiet for a moment, and then he stands up, begins pacing around the room. He begins tearing at his beard. He begins weeping. He gnashes his teeth, and he says, I swear by Aule the Maker, enduring deathless, by all the powers of the West and those below in the dark, I shall have vengeance. Death to he who slew my brother, and death to anyone who stands between me and my revenge. To this I swear it. And he looks over at you all. And you, will you accompany me to avenge my brother?
I think we need to tell you a little more about what happened first. You have to understand.
And who did it?
Yes.
The many-handed.
Aye, that name means nothing to me.
It was a massive orc host, perhaps hundreds if not thousands of orcs. You would need an army.
Then an army we shall get. When the king under the mountain died, all the dwarves had no hesitation in gathering in vengeance for him. And so it should be with Flonar.
I understand.
This transgression should not go unanswered.
I understand. I'm just sorry that we didn't arrive in time to save more.
Aye, as am I. But you cannot be to blame for this. It was not you who took the axe to him.
Perhaps not.
But again, I ask for your aid, that justice may be brought about, and we may rid the lone lands of this horde that you speak of.
I'm with you.
I'm willing to help as well.
You have my bow.
Miragar just holds a frying pan.
And I was just gonna say, in my skillet.
Aye. Well, stands to reason that you come here now as you did. A gathering of dwarf lords is commencing in the gathering hall. Vilya's among them. Perhaps if they don't already know about this and haven't kept it secret from the rest of us, they should know about it at the very least.
Outsiders allowed to attend such a meeting, or will your people have to do that on their own?
You, as bearers of the news, would be the best to bring it to the council.
Well, if we're allowed by your customs, so shall it be.
He looks, and with that, he looks over at the dwarves which followed you, and he says, Thror, if you be so kind as to let the council know that they've got guests coming. With that, he gives him a nod and heads off and says, well, it's best you at least take your rest until you're summoned.
We appreciate the hospitality. Again, you have my deepest condolences that we don't have better news for you.
Aye. Well, condolences should be for the orcs that we're about to meet on the field of battle.
Yes, well, we did fell quite a few on our way here, at least.
Thin in their ranks, as it were.
Yes, they tried to chase us down, and well, we stopped them.
And from the looks of it, the Veil did hold its own for quite a while.
Yes.
That's good knowing. And with that, I would say you all are able to now make your travel rolls to reduce your fatigue.
All right.
Travel pillow, help me.
Yeah.
Actually, I have my hope back. Can I do a magical success on this?
Sure.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Well, I don't get any from. I have a horse.
It's a good thing I did not. Magic success.
Yep.
I just reduced one.
I get nothing.
And from the horse, I guess.
Yeah.
My maps don't help me with this. Weird.
I gotta double check.
Who's better than nothing?
Okay. Yep, it's 4 for my horse. Okay, so it's something.
So
You with the
everybody's...
fancy horse.
Don't worry, man. I'm sure Miragar will get his own Bree pony too, and we'll have matching horses.
Fair enough.
All right. And with that, you all rest up for a little while. We'll say it's the next day when you are finally summoned to the council hall. And you're guided through the massive halls of the dwarves, almost seemingly by candlelight, as these massive torches that these dwarves carry get encroached upon by the creeping darkness of this hall. The massive nature of it makes it almost impossible to illuminate, at least in its current state. But eventually you do come to the gathering hall. And you look in and you can see this is a rather large room that spans out probably 100 feet in any direction, in the center of which is a large stone table, circular, with chairs centered around, with chairs outlining the perimeter. You see dwarvish runes kind of inscribed on the table along the side. And you see a number of braziers that kind of hang down from the ceiling and attempt to illuminate this room, but even this room is too much for the light to reach. But you can see enough of the room to see this table and its current occupants. There you see 5 dwarves, all kind of dressed in very regal attire. A lot of jewelry, golden, that hangs from their necks, rings, bracelets, purples and reds on their robes. And you see one woman who walks with a cane, and she is being assisted by another dwarf as she lurches into the room. And this will give you an idea of what she looks like.
All right.
You can see that she is elderly. Her face is pale. Her eyes are almost blank. You can tell just by looking at her that she seems to have almost gone blind.
Okay.
As she sits down, the rest of the dwarf lords sit down, and you all stand on the outer perimeter of the room. And with that, we're going to take a quick break.
All right.
We'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Perfect. Greetings, tavern goers, and thank you all for watching this Tales from the Dragon's Tavern production. We wanted to take a few seconds to let you know that we have just launched our first paid tier for our Patreon page. If you like battle maps, regional maps, or anything in between, you can take part in our first tier as a tavern regular. For only $2 a month, you can take advantage of all of the maps made on stream during Saturday morning map making. Fear not, young tavern goer. The free tier is still available, and every episode will be posted there for your enjoyment as well. We here at the Tavern appreciate your patronage, no matter what your tab is. Thank you once again. Now let's get back to our show. And we are back, as the company has been summoned to the council gathering chamber in the halls of the dwarves for a council regarding the events of the Veil of Gold. And thus you all see the old woman led in by the arm, walking with a cane. She comes in and it is announced, "Milia, Lady of the Halls of the Dwarves." And all the other dwarves stand up in
Is this one of those
recognition.
deals where they like say it in Dwarvish first and then say it in common for us folks because we're here?
You can tell that they are saying it in common, almost as a courtesy to you all.
Okay. I figured. We appreciate that.
Yep.
And with that, she kind of puts a load on her cane, and then raises her hand up and motions everybody else to sit down. And she says, "We are gathered at the request of Floki, second son of Flokar. The ravens have brought dark tidings of the Veil of Gold, and these travelers have come from the hill and brought not only news, but prisoners taken by the orcs as well. Please, if you would, introduce yourselves to the council." And you see she, almost out of breath, walks over to her chair and sits down with a thump. And thus, this will begin a council. And so...
He's not allowed to do anything with these because he killed the stag.
I mean, you can try if you want.
Nope,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Aranel is keeping her mouth shut because none of
Technically.
those.
I mean, technically, I don't know if...
Those are good.
I don't know if... I mean, Frost knows, but I don't think Thrush knows that he's
No.
actually cursed.
I mean, he doesn't
Oh,
have a
I
lot
would've
to
told
give.
him.
He doesn't have a lot to give in terms of counsel at these council. But I mean, if they ask him something, he's going to, use his,
He's just-
ability for song to recite something or whatever. But
He's just gonna awe them. Hey, look
Yeah,
at this.
no.
Oh, wait, no, I have to hide the necklace.
yeah, that's
I
not
would
going to happen.
absolutely know.
Okay.
Aranel would have told him.
And thus comes the portion where you all make your introductions. You'll elect a spokesperson to make the introduction, and you can choose between either an all roll to kind of make your deeds known, a courtesy roll to show pleasantries and show that you come in good faith, or riddle to kind of bewilder the council and attempt to extract information without giving any.
Larry volunteers his tribute with courtesy,
Okay.
if there are no objections. Alright, and I will put a hope on it. Alright.
Great success.
Yep, hope matters.
Very good.
It's a good thing you
Okay.
did.
Yep. I mean, I think I would have gotten it without it, but now it's a great success.
It doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you got... Okay. Very good. Very good.
Lords and ladies, and lords and lady of the Dwarven people, we appreciate that you allowed us to take part in your grand traditions, and I'm sorry that we're here not bearing pleasant news. But we are proud that we were able to rescue some of your kin at the very least, and bring them home.
And to that, Jari in the background behind you says, "Hear, hear!" And you see Vilya, she kind of raises her hand a little bit and tries to settle everybody down, as there are some murmurs and almost shouts of praise coming from the people that are kind of on the outskirts of the room, almost shrouded in shadow. She says, "Now, we already know some of the events that transpired. Would you please do us all a kindness and regale what it was that you saw and the events that took place on your watch?"
Of course. At the behest of Floki, we were directed to deliver a letter for his brother Flonar, and we made our way across the lands to where the veil was supposed to be. And when we arrived, we saw nothing but a scene of death, destruction, and carnage. And unfortunately, your kin, they fought very bravely and took many orcs with them, but it was a losing battle. We found the bodies that we could, and we apologize in advance if there was any offense, but we buried them because we just felt it was proper. And we gathered any belongings and put them all in a cache to be found by any fellow members of their family or clans for retrieval, in case there are important heirlooms. But we then followed the tracks of the orc horde to see if there were any survivors, and after some days of travel and a few attempts, we were able to break into their encampment unnoticed and rescue your people, and it's just been a journey back ever since.
With that, she kind of speaks up. You can hear a few gasps from around the room to kind of hear the tale told from the eyes, from the perspective of someone who was there. She stands up again, and you see another dwarf comes over to help her up. She holds up her hand and begins to kind of make laps around the table. And she motions for you all to have a seat at the table as well.
Thank you.
She says, "There is more to this tale, and that must be told too, before Floki's plea may justly be heard, as everyone under the mountain could hear his wrath.
Yes.
Many of you know this story, but others may not, and so it should be spoken here again, so that the stone may remember. Flonar was one of several who defied both custom and word of King Dain by seeking to enter the lost city of Moria. Whether it was foolish talk or if Flonar ever put his plans into action, I know not. But it is forbidden either way." And you can see Jari has kind of shrunken behind one of the pillars in the hall at this point. "And even so, I was there at Azanul Bazaar when Frerin, son of Thrain, fell in battle. I fought alongside Thorin in the Oakwood and saw Azog slay 9 of the Iron Hills. I saw young Dain Ironfoot avenge his father. Not slow was his axe that day. I watched him spring up the steps to Durin's gate and halt them on the very threshold of the first hall. He said then that a foresight was on him, and that the dwarves shall not return to Moria until a greater power walks in those halls. Who can gainsay a foresight bought at such a cost? Only a fool. It was for this folly that Flonar was shunned, and he left these mountains to dwell in the Vale of Gold. Treasure consumed his thoughts, and treasure brought ruin to him." And you can hear Loki, he begins to sputter. And he begins to growl at these words, at the idea of Flonar being consumed by greed. And to that, Vilya immediately puts up her hand once again, and she says, "I mislike rashly spoken words. They lead only to sorrow. We shall reconvene again in 1 hour, so that we may choose wisely with clearer heads." And with that, you see a couple of the dwarves begin making their way out of the room, Floki among them. At which point, Vilya actually motions to you all to follow.
Of course.
And
Up the rear.
she kind of stands around and waits until all the other dwarves leave, and then makes her way to the opposite side of this gathering hall. And through a door where you can see it's a bit of a smaller meeting room, almost an office. And she sits down behind what looks to be kind of like a desk/table. And she says, "Please go and get the chest, if you would." And you see one of the dwarves make his way over to what looks to be kind of like a lockbox, and hoists it up with much toil and brings it over and slams it down on the desk in front of her. You can tell that it is very heavy. And she says, "By my count, there were 10 prisoners which you rescued and brought back to these halls so valiantly.
Yes.
And such valiant actions should not go unrewarded." And with that, you see she pulls out a key and unlocks it and begins counting out coin and throws it all into a bag and sets it down in front of you all. "For your efforts, please take this as a gift."
If you're certain about this, then we will gladly take your gift. We don't want to mean any offense, but no, we didn't do this for a reward. We did this because it was the right thing to do.
"No offense should be taken of a gift freely given."
We'll take the bag of treasure and we'll figure out how to divide it later.
For value's sake, there are 100 points worth of treasure in that bag.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, so that's 25 for each of us.
That's,
Whew.
yeah, 10,
Aranel can get her own horse.
10 points of treasure for each dwarf that you saved.
Wow.
Well, or she could put a piece of treasure in 25 more people's houses.
Whichever comes first, I guess.
So that brings me up to 77. 90 is the next threshold, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like
Close!
close, but not that close. I'm at
I'm
74.
trying to retire like Bilbo.
I have 13 treasure to spare after a horse, okay?
Nice.
Aranel can still do the Aranel thing.
Awesome.
All right. And so, with that, she closes this lockbox in the dwarf, hoists it up, much lighter than it was previously, and takes it back over to the shelf from whence it came. She says, "Now comes the reason I invited you in here, chiefly.
Yes, of course.
Floki is overcome with grief and anger. He calls for vengeance, but he is no king.
Yes.
Few dwarves will rally to his cause, and there are far too many orcs by your description for him to defeat alone.
Yes.
If you are truly friends with Floki and care for his well-being, you will see that he abandons this nonsense.
Of course.
Make him see sense. But it may be bitter to speak against a friend, and Floki will not be quick to forgive you, but it is for the best."
I'm inclined to agree. I would not ask your people to march their army all across the lands just for this. Although I do admit I don't like what these orcs are doing, and perhaps they need to be stopped, but maybe we're not the people to do that.
Nothing can be done about those orcs. They are far too numerous, and I will not risk going to war yet again. Especially so far from our holes.
I understand.
Do you know of any reason whatsoever why those orcs may have marched so far to attack the Vale?
I found a chain of mithril around Flonar's neck, and it looked like something was broken off of it.
With that, she kind of hangs her head.
I take it he did something quite foolish.
She asks, "Were you able to obtain a key?"
Now, whatever was attached to the chain is unfortunately long gone. And, well, admittedly, we were more focused on the prisoners than anything else once we got up to the orcs.
She continues hanging her head and then eventually comes to look back up at you all, and she says, "That key was to a secret way into Moria that was brought out of the wreck of that city by King Thrain I. And a copy of that key was held in the archives here in the Blue Mountains. I suppose that Flonar stole it.
So it would seem.
I beg of you, you must keep this quiet. For if the other dwarves know that there's a secret way into Moria, it might inspire others to follow in that folly."
Yes. I believe then that Flonar did something foolish and unfortunately brought the ire of the orcs upon your people.
Yeah. Luckily, we are safe behind our walls, which is where we plan to stay.
Yes. And I know that the loss of the key or its copy is a terrible loss to your people, but perhaps that will placate the orcs from any more violence against you for the time being.
Indeed. With Owl's blessing, we shall remain at peace for years to come.
I apologize that we've had nothing but poor news for you.
You brought back 10 dwarves. I hardly count that as poor news.
Well, I suppose that's fair for you to have. Thank you.
Do you all have anything else that you would like to ask of or about Vilya?
Yep. Thrush is going to finally, after all of this, just say,
Nerd out.
no, not point blank, but bluntly say, you can hide here as long as you want. The shadow is moving. The shadow is active. Our enemy is coming for whatever fell purpose. We've seen his tokens among other people. You can't hide here forever. Something will have to be done at some point. Maybe not today, and you are much longer lived, but things are moving out there. Unpleasant things. And we've seen them in many different lands.
And what course of action are you suggesting, Thrush?
Same thing that I do every day that we set out. Resist. In any way we can.
Well, go ahead and give me either an awe roll or a or it sounds like you're going for more of an awe.
Yeah, and he's not even worried necessarily about because he can't see necessarily, but you know the necklace does add weight to his words, but he's not trying to hide it necessarily.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's possible to cause problems, but he's doing it anyway.
Okay, and you are, I would count that as a bold statement. So,
Very bold indeed.
yeah, if you want to invoke your distinctive feature, you definitely can.
All right, lots of dice coming your way. Sorry, computer.
Oh, no way.
That was a lot of force.
That was a ton of fours.
No sixes at all.
9 dice and no 6s. Okay.
Yeah.
And you gotta
And
anyways.
as you say this, the shadows seem to deepen around you, and all of the noise in the room seems to drift away as your voice seems to encompass this entire room. And you see Vilya, she doesn't notice really much of anything. As you look in her eyes, you see they are very pale.
I was about to
She
say,
sees,
she's blind. She probably doesn't see the necklace.
if nothing, she can definitely tell that there is power behind your words. She says, there is more about you than meets, well, what would normally be to the eye. But we'll save that for the council. And take note of that success there.
Okay.
And at that, you see she stands up. The dwarf who was helping her out. You see he's got like a bald spot on the top of his head with 2 braids that come down on either side of his ears, and a beard which is kind of tied down in the middle towards his sternum, and then is flared out towards the bottom. He comes over and grabs her arm and leads her back into the meeting hall.
Before we leave, Aranel, I think, would speak up just to do the Aranel thing. Lady Vilya, I know it's not much, but we did find some treasures on our way. And she'll kind of dig around in her pouch and grab the amethyst that we had found way back, like over a year ago. That was dwarven. And she'll kind of press it into Vilya's hand.
And with that,
This
you see.
amethyst was
Go ahead.
of dwarven make.
With that, you see she stares up into the ceiling and fumbles it about in her hand. And she says, This is of great value. Let it not be said that dwarves and elves shall forever remain enemies, for you are of the fair folk. Yes. And with that, I would say that if you try any rolls, then you'll gain another bonus die for that.
Sweet.
And she says, my gratitude knows no bounds. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
And with that, you all are led back into the gathering room where all of the dwarves have returned. You can see that Floki sits at the opposite end of the table. Still, he is fuming. You see fire in his eyes as they gleam in the brazier light. And she says, now that we should all have cooler heads, let us continue our council. And with that, Floki immediately jumps in. He says, I'll have you know that this is an insult that the dwarves cannot go unanswered. My brother is dead. 24 other dwarves are dead. The orcs must answer for this. I call on you! And you see he pulls out a long-hafted axe and holds it aloft and points out at all of the other dwarves who are standing in the room. I call on you to muster an army, muster with me to war against the orcs who did this. And with that, Vilya turns to you all and says, what course of action would you all take?
Okay.
And based on your answer here, it will determine the resistance rating.
Okay. So this isn't a roll yet then. This is just a suggestion.
Correct. Yeah. So your suggestion here will set the resistance, and then your rolls going forward will determine whether or not you carry forward with that.
All right. Well, Larry's personal feeling is that sending an army is foolhardy, but doing absolutely nothing is also foolhardy. Because these orcs are definitely up to something. I would say maybe a small mission of volunteers only to gather information would probably be the best course of action. But I don't know what you guys think.
Well, there's the option of talking to the people of Bree, who we're somewhat on good terms with now, and possibly Thrush's people, to see if there's any way we can get them interested in trying to help, possibly enlisting the elves, even though it's much farther away from their land. It's much less likely. But that's a lot of footwork, and it's probably not going to please the dwarves to have to wait that long.
Yeah, well, I also think it depends on where the orc horde is. I mean, if they were not moving this way, right? They were going
No. We're pretty sure they're probably headed to what? Carndoon?
I thought they were towards the Ettenmoors.
Ettenmoors.
The Edmores? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think sending the army is the best bet, but
Doing
maybe,
absolutely.
yeah, but maybe sending a few contingents out, like through Bree, and kind of like a patrol type thing.
Yeah, some kind of scouting mission.
Yeah.
Because we still have to figure out what's going on to cause all of those
Nightmares.
bad dreams. Which could be tied to the orcs, could not. But
Could Larry ask the dwarves about that before making any kind of decision? They've encountered any of these fell dreams?
because I almost wonder when we like felt the change in the forest.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where the radius ended? Yeah.
Well, the terrain was a lot less treacherous
Okay.
at that point, and a lot less foreboding.
Okay. So, not necessarily anything intangible, though.
Yeah, you know the tales of the hills of Evendom, and the things which have made their home there since the fall of the kingdoms of men is none too pleasant, and a lot of that is outside of the influence of whatever is causing these dreams. It's still kind of regarded as a vile area.
Okay, so that throws that theory out.
But did you say that you said that you wanted to ask if they were having dreams?
Yeah. Before making any decisions.
To that, one of the dwarves kind of stands up.
Yeah, it's like, has anyone... Before we continue, I'd like to ask, on our travels, and even ourselves personally, we've encountered these fell dreams of a vision of a mountain, and your greatest fears being manifested from it and trying to drown you in shadow. It's affected masses of people, even all the way back in my home, Bree. Clearly, there's some dark influence on the lands, and we'd like to know if have your people been affected by this, or does it have a limit?
I have seen visions in my sleep of things emerging from some wintry wasteland. Hordes of orcs beating down my door.
And to that, another dwarf stands up. You see he's got a long red beard, and he wears a red tunic with kind of a purple undershirt. Very, very gaudy jewelry with inset garnets and diamonds.
I'm Forlim Broadbeam of Galmazon, and I too have been having such dreams. Dreaming that the forages go dark, and as the armies of the enemy march forth, we have nothing to defend ourselves with.
And you see a couple of the other dwarves stand up and begin giving accounts of dreams that they've had.
Okay. I think Larry kind of has an idea of what he wants to say at this point. I would not ask your people to commit to a war. That is not my place to do so. But I do believe wholeheartedly there are terrible dark forces in motion, and that we at least, at the bare minimum, need to know what is happening. And I would request that any volunteers who would like to join us perhaps can make some sort of scouting regiment to find out what the enemy is up to, so we can at least be prepared before committing to any major action.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm willing to go to my own people and Thrush's his people, and we will take any volunteers we can get for such a task. But we cannot do it alone. But we will not force anyone to do it against their own will.
Okay. So you can see that the council has started. There's a resistance of 6. However, you do have 1 success thanks to Thrush earlier.
Nice.
Now, this asking for dwarves to volunteer to arm themselves and march across the Lone Lands towards the Ettenmoors is a bold request.
Yeah.
And so...
Not as bold as asking them to send their full army, though.
Correct. Yeah, that would be an outrageous request. But still doable.
Yes.
That said, I would have you give me probably a maybe a Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say if I could try to enhearten the people to try and get them to unite under a banner of all of the peoples of Middle-earth, to see if together we can at least bat away the enemy.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Gandalf room.
Fucking Gandalf.
All right. Very good.
No bonus successes, though. But...
Bonus successes, but that is 2 successes, so... Or 2 successes total.
Right.
All right, and to this, you hear murmurs begin to make their way around, almost in a wave, around the people who are currently in this room. And one of the dwarf lords stands up and says, "And how are we to outfit all of these dwarven volunteers? And how are we supposed to know whether or not it's going to start a war anyway?"
These are all fair questions. But if we are not aware of what the enemy is planning, we will all be caught flat-footed and be forced into a war we're not prepared for anyways. It is a risk, but there is no greater weapon than knowledge in war.
That sounds to me like... probably a persuade roll.
Okay, I will give it a shot.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
All right, and you
That merchant silver tongue is coming in handy.
hear
Larry's carrying us.
you hear a quiet come over the hall, as it seems as though your words carry weight. You can tell that people look at you and they see a well-traveled warrior. They look at all of you and can tell that you've been through a lot and know a thing or two about the ways of orcs and how to fight them and how to combat them. And so someone else from the back kind of shouts out, says, "You know, I'd be happy to lend my axe to the cause, but what of the Lone Lands? What are the dangers that lie there and the travel? How far are we going to go? How are we going to provide food? How are we going to ensure that all of our ranks make it there in one piece?"
Well, anyone want to jump in, or should I try again?
Aranel can try, but
It depends if you think that, speaking up, because, she's good at hunting and such, but
I don't mind carrying the thing. I just don't want to take away from anyone else's chance to say anything.
I mean, if she could, like, start singing one of, like, our travel songs and maybe, like, melding the two songs that we have so far together to kind of tell the story of everything we've faced.
Okay.
I think that might help.
Okay. That sounds like, are you going for, it sounds like a song roll,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yep, that's exactly what she was going for.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
And I'm gonna use that bonus die from...
I was gonna say, now, is this something I could assist her with? Or can we not do it on these? Because I'm trying to figure out, because she's my fellowship focus, but I'm not hers. So
Yes, because you get wounded too often.
right, because this would if I did this, it would give her a die, but that's it, right? If I did it.
Correct.
If we could do it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see anything that says you can't assist.
Okay.
That's a, you know,
Because it's a council.
a solitary role. Yeah, you're narratively you're all kind of having this conversation, but Larry so far has been more or less taking the lead and driving the point home.
Doing that silver tongue merchant stuff.
Yeah, he'll just attempt to, help her, back her up quietly in the background, subtly.
Here goes nothing.
Aww.
Dang it!
Okay.
It was those stupid ones.
Yeah. Okay.
And fine songs and tall tales, why that is. It tells us nothing about what lies out there now. It doesn't sound as though you fought any sort of horde such as this.
At this point, I think we might. He's already miserable, so it can't make it any worse for him.
Are you just gonna magical success another all roll?
I think he's just going to stand up and just say, "You have no idea what we've faced. No idea what we've seen. We're telling you the truth. And when we tell you, you can persevere against these things, we mean it. They've seen it. They've seen what we can do. They've tested themselves. Have you tested yourself?"
Ooh.
I like
Damn!
Like narratively, Larry's gonna speak up and help Thrush, but mechanically he's not, because he's gonna get an automatic success, so it would be a waste. But I'm like, we have felled orcs in the Vale. We have traveled to the long-lost island of the Mother. Traveled through Numenorian ruins. We have been through the lands of the elves. We have been through our own lands. We have been to your lands now. We have seen more in our travels than most can see in their lifetimes.
All right.
All right, he's going to roll. It'll be a magical success, and he's miserable, so it's likely he won't get any successes. But
But you never know.
you never know. Oh my
Oh,
God.
Holy crap!
Oh, the success! Hey, look, it's 36.
Wow.
It's 36.
It's likely I won't get any
5
successes.
success die.
I didn't.
Rolls all of them.
Rush.
Surprise.
Wow, dog. That's incredible.
You've been saving them up, haven't you?
Wow.
Yeah, I found a bag of them back here. Sorry, I used them all.
Incredible. And as these words emit from your mouth, the braziers flare. You feel this tremor within you, almost anger, almost valor, almost some sort of power that grows from deep within your gut and projects your voice forward so that it carries throughout the halls and it might be heard through all the halls down to the dwarves, which wait in the ruins near Belagost and Nogrod, all the way on either side of the Blue Mountains. And with
1 out of 6.
and with that, you hear an uproar of dwarven shouts, war cries, "Yeah!" as you hear people unsheathing their axes and waving them about. Vilya says, "And so be it."
Yeah, Larry will clarify. I'm like, we ask only for volunteers who wish to go embark upon this journey. We don't ask anyone to commit to a full-scale war. We just want to know what is happening, and if an opportunity arises to weaken the enemy, and it seems that we are capable of doing so, we will take it. But we will not force anyone to do anything they don't want to. This is strictly for volunteers only.
If this is the will of the council, then the council will see it done. We shall ensure that our volunteers are properly outfitted and make sure that they are able to at least make it to your destination in one piece.
That is all we ask, and if anyone feels the need to turn back at any point during the journey, they can do so. And still hold their heads high, knowing that they volunteered for our cause, to do something for our lands.
And
Which
with
is
that,
more than most can say.
you hear another raucous cheer from the dwarves as they shout almost in preemptive victory for the vengeance of their fallen comrades.
Miragar's banging the skillet, you know. Like
Yeah, it's just
It's like,
a little bit over this poor hobbit's head what's going on here, so he's probably he was any points that he shared, he was probably like, don't forget about the
And it is at that it seems as though almost a celebration is about to begin as the dwarf lords begin to stand up from their chairs and make their way about. A few of them stand up and say, "Well, what are you waiting for, lads? To the mead hall!" And the dwarves begin to file out of the room, almost pushing each other through the doorway.
if Larry can, he's gonna look for Floki.
And you see Floki kind of, he's actually sitting in his chair at the opposite side of the table, silent.
I'm just gonna kind of approach him like, I could not force your people to do something on my behalf. I hope you understand.
You don't understand the amount of gratitude that I have towards you.
I'm just sorry that we couldn't do more, but hopefully, at the very least, we can find the leader, if nothing else.
Even a small pack of vengeful dwarves is more than enough to take on an entire army of orcs.
Well,
Trust me on that.
we saw as much at the Vale.
yes, I don't doubt your tenacity, but I will say, this is unlike any horde I think anyone has seen in quite some time.
And we'll meet them head on.
We will try to gather any allies from our own peoples as well, and see what coalition we can create.
And when do you mean to march?
To be honest, it probably depends on how much time your people need and how much time we need to get our own people.
We can be ready within the week. But winter's coming. You don't want to be trudging out through the Lhûn lands during the winter.
Now, perhaps we wait until after Yule, so everyone has time to think over their decision to volunteer, make sure they're properly equipped, and if they have any affairs they need to get in order in case misery befalls them.
You hear he kind of grows a little bit more stern at this point. He says,
Are you sure it's wise to wait that long? Who knows whatever else they might waylay on the road, or if they're even still at whatever this place is that they're inhabiting come spring.
I can't imagine that they'll be able to send that many orcs across the lands very quickly again.
They are slow moving.
We were able to travel the distance they did in one day in half the time. We are slow and lumbering. Our force will be much more nimble.
They
You
can
can
go
see
much
he's-
quicker when they're pursuing something.
He's kind of deep in thought. You can tell that your speech has, or your performance at the council has definitely inspired him and given him much vigor. But give me an insight roll real quick. Anybody who wants to.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I feel like I've already spent my good rolls, but we'll see. Oh, well, I could get double Gandalf runes.
Wow.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, I guess this guy's just my best friend now, and I know him inside now.
It was your turn to get the double Gandalf, so.
You can tell just by looking at him, watching him ponder over everything that you all have said, he is ready to act. And depending on your reasoning, he may act without you.
We want the greatest chance of success possible. That means getting all of the assets and the men and material that we can.
Correct. But it's not to say that there cannot be a forward scout.
Yes.
It determines if they're still there without engaging, because that would be foolhardy. But making sure that they are still where they are, and making sure that we meet up if we do meet in the spring.
Go ahead and give me a persuade roll.
I have no persuasion.
Aranel also has no persuasion.
Larry will attempt.
Let's see.
No, just barely. You know what? I'm gonna spend a hope point then. And that will give me 1d6.
Normally, I would call for that before you roll, but I'll allow it this time. And with that, he looks up at you and he says,
Hey, you know you're right, and I know you're right. It would be foolhardy for me to go without any support. I'm just
I understand.
spending another season waiting.
I understand, but we have to give everyone the best possible chance to succeed. We're asking a lot of all of your people, anyone who volunteers. I'm sure many of them have families that they may need to attend to before they can leave. I just want to try to do right by as many people as possible.
Vilya's right, in that rash actions lead to undesirable outcomes. And what's wrong with people spending one more Yule with their families if they don't know if they're gonna come home again?
Exactly.
Those are the words of a ruler.
Right.
and he stamps his axe on the ground and stands up, and he gives you a deep bow. And he says, "From here and ever on, I am Floki, and I'll forever be at your service."
We would be honored.
And I think that is as good a place as any to end tonight's episode.